Good morning once again from Mission Control in Houston and the International Space Station Flight Control Room. You are looking live at the Soyuz MS-25 spacecraft that is attached to the Prishal module on the Russian segment of the International Space Station. Inside the Soyuz, 3 crew members, NASA's Tracy Dyson and Roscosmos cosmonauts Oleg Kononenko and Nikolai Chub, are all suited up in their Sokol launch and entry suits, ready to undock from the International Space Station some 35 minutes or so from now to begin the journey home and a parachute-assisted landing on the steppe of Kazakhstan, south-central Kazakhstan, about 91 miles to the southeast of the remote town of Zhezkazgan. Aboard the Soyuz, the 3 crew members, Oleg Kononenko, the Soyuz commander, who is strapped into the center seat of the center section of the Soyuz, the descent module, flanked to his left by Nikolai Chub and to his right by Tracy Dyson. The Soyuz, under the call sign of Antares, will soon be opening the hooks, holding it to the Prishal module. That will be followed by springs pushing off on both sides of the docking interface to allow the Soyuz to physically separate from the Prishal. The undocking is scheduled at 3:36 and 30 seconds a.m. Central Time, 4:36 and 30 seconds a.m. Eastern Time. Following the undocking of the Soyuz, which will technically mark the official end of Expedition 71 and the beginning of Expedition 72 on the International Space Station, there will be 2 separation burns by the Soyuz thrusters. The first will be an 8-second burn of those engines at 3:39 and 30 seconds a.m. Central Time, followed a minute and 20 seconds later by a second separation burn that will increase the opening rate between the Soyuz and the International Space Station, ultimately resulting in the Soyuz being some 41 kilometers away from the station at the time of its deorbit burn, just after 6:05 a.m. Central Time this morning. A retrograde firing of the Soyuz engines for 4 minutes and 39 seconds to slow the Soyuz down, allowing it to drop out of orbit for its high-speed entry back to Earth and that landing on the steppe of Kazakhstan. The journey home for Dyson, Kononenko, and Chub began on Sunday morning when the 12 crew members on board the International Space Station gathered in the Japanese Kibo module for a change of command ceremony in which Kononenko, only one of 2 crew members who have flown in space, who have commanded the station on 3 separate occasions, handed over the keys to the International Space Station to NASA's Sonny Williams. Let's take a look back at Sunday morning's change of command ceremony.
Okay, Houston. I would like to thank all space agencies and Mission Control Center for the great help and support from the ground. Thanks to all my crewmates for your friendship. It has been a great time to work and a great pleasure to work and spend time together here as a big family on board in the space station. And right now I am leaving my second home, the space station, in Sanita's delicate hands. I pass you the key to the International Space Station and some words in Russian. Я хочу сказать огромное спасибо всем специалистам Центров управления полетом, которые осуществляли нашу поддержку в течение всего года, ежедневно помогая нам выполнять текущие плановые задачи и решая наши возникающие проблемы. Спасибо огромное нашему дружному экипажу за совместную работу. И передаю командование астронавту НАСА Саните Уильямс.
I guess I get to say a couple words, so I appreciate it, Oleg. This Expedition 71 has taught all of us a lot about flexibility, the ability to adapt to a number of amazing things. A lot of things weren't planned, and somehow you guys put it all together and did it. It's pretty amazing, pretty impressive. You adopted Butch and I, even though that was not quite the plan, but here we are as part of the family. You welcomed Don, Alexei, and Ivan with open arms. And with your Soyuz crew and Crew 8, you have made this a great family. We appreciate it. Oleg, we'll miss your hundreds of stories around the dinner table. But I guess that's what you get for having over 1,000 days in space. Okay. You get those stories, right? Kolya, we're going to miss your precision, your professionalism, but I guess that's what you get when you sign up for your rookie flight as over a year in space. And Tracy, we're going to miss your desk and your organization and your ability to make order out of chaos, even in the craziest of times. So we thank you, all three of you, for that. So I'm going to try. Я хотела бы пожелать вам успехов, удачи и мягкой писаки. До встречи на Земле. Спасибо.
And Station Houston, thank you. We'll be resuming normal operational audio. 12 years and 7 days ago was the last time Sunny had the keys in her hand. Glad to have him back.
That reference was to Sunny Williams, who just over 12 years ago was the commander for Expedition 33. Now she assumes command for Expedition 72 aboard the International Space Station. And again, that expedition formally begins at physical separation between the Soyuz and the Prashal module that is scheduled about 28.5 minutes from now. The other pertinent statistics involve NASA's Tracy Dyson, who today is coming home back to Earth to complete the third flight in her career. This mission for Tracy Dyson spanned 184 days, 2,944 orbits of the Earth, a mission of 78 million statute miles. For Oleg Kononenko and Nikolai Chub, they surpassed the all-time record for a single International Space Station mission this past Friday. Today, they come home with 374 days in space on this flight, a total of 5,984 orbits and 158.6 million statute miles. And for Oleg Kononenko, who is the all-time record holder for most aggregate days in space, he will arrive back on Earth in a few hours, having accrued 1,111 days on his 5 missions out of the grip of the planet Earth. Kononenko has more than 200 additional days more than Gennady Padalka, the Russian cosmonaut who is now in second place on the all-time endurance list.
Well, you see again, it went off. Is it accompanied by a sound? Yes, that's the matter. It's enunciating the information. Okay, copy.
Так, ну мы сейчас скажем, может дадут какую-то рекомендацию.
We'll tell them right now. Maybe they will come up with a recommendation.
A little over 3 hours ago, the 12 crew members on the International Space Station gathered in the small passageway of the Prashal module to say goodbye to one another. Kononenko in the green shirt there. The 9 crew members left aboard the International Space Station, now part of Expedition 72, as soon as the Soyuz undocks a few minutes from now, led by NASA's Sonny Williams, who's the new commander of the station, joined by Matt Dominic, Mike Barrett, Jeanette Epps, Don Pettit, and Butch Wilmore, along with 3 Russian cosmonauts, Alexei Ovchinin, Ivan Wagner, and Alexander Grabenkin. The 3 departing crew members, Dyson, Kononenko, and Chub, made their way in the Soyuz spacecraft. Hatches were closed at 12:02 a.m. Central Time, 1:02 a.m. Eastern Time. And after that, the 3 departing crew members began the process of conducting leak checks and then donned their Sokol launch and entry suits, having also completed the leak checks on their suits, everything in good shape there. And a few minutes ago, flight controllers here at Mission Control in Houston conducted their poll, and all positions are go for the undocking of the Soyuz to begin the journey home for Dyson, Kononenko, and Chub. The 3 crew members are in the center section of that Soyuz vehicle that you see mated at the top of your screen to the Prishal module. In the descent module, Oleg Kononenko using the call sign Antares for this part of the journey home from undocking through landing. Kononenko is in the center seat as Soyuz commander, flanked to his left by Nikolai Chub, who is board engineer number 1, and to his right by NASA's Tracy Dyson, who is board engineer number 2. The sequence of events as they will unfold over the next few hours start off with the undocking command to begin the initiation of the opening of the hooks holding the Soyuz to the Prishal module. That command will be initiated about 22.5 minutes from now. The undocking itself, as we mentioned, scheduled at 3:36 and 30 seconds a.m. Central Time, 4:36 and 30 seconds a.m. Eastern Time. That'll be followed by 2 separation burns, the first an 8-second burn of the Soyuz engines, about 3 minutes after the undocking itself, and then 1 minute and 20 seconds later, a second separation burn to initiate a faster opening rate between the Soyuz and the station. That will leave the Soyuz a couple of hours from now for the deorbit burn that is scheduled at 6:05 and 46 seconds a.m. Central Time, a 4-minute, 39-second retrograde firing of the Soyuz engines to slow the Soyuz down by 128 meters per second, allowing it to slowly drop out of orbit for its high-speed entry back into the Earth's atmosphere. Some 28 minutes after the deorbit burn, with the Soyuz pointed in the direction of travel back to Earth, there will be a command for the pyrotechnic separation of the 3 sections of the Soyuz, that module separation scheduled at 6:33 and 32 seconds a.m. Central Time, 7:33 and 32 seconds a.m. Eastern Time. Just 3 minutes after the module separation, with the Soyuz heat shield in the direction of travel to ablate the heat that will build up around the Soyuz to about 2,500 degrees Fahrenheit, the Soyuz will enter into the plasma regime, if you will. This is the period of peak heating on the spacecraft as it re-enters the atmosphere. That plasma regime and a blackout of communications is likely to last about 5 minutes in duration, with the crew then experiencing maximum G loads of about 4 to 5 Gs on their bodies, also experiencing the first tug of gravity against themselves. For Kononenko and Chub, the first sensation of gravity in over a year. For Tracy Dyson, the first sensation of gravity in over 6 months. The command to open the parachutes on the Soyuz is scheduled at an altitude of about 6.5 miles above the Earth. The command is scheduled to be issued at 6:44 and 55 seconds a.m. Central Time, 7:44 and 55 seconds a.m. Eastern Time. The parachute deployment sequence is triggered by a barometric pressure sensor at an altitude of 41,000 feet. At this point, the main parachute cover is jettisoned by pyros and springs that pulls out 2 extraction chutes, which in turn pulls out the drogue chute. That in turn pulls out the main chute on the Soyuz. This all takes about 20 seconds to occur. At about 18,000 feet in altitude, commands are then issued to jettison the heat shield, inhibit the entry control thrusters, and to open up valves to vent all the hydrogen peroxide fuel for the entry control thrusters and the oxygen in the life support system tank. If we are fortunate enough to have video from the landing site at that time, you may see a white vapor emanating from the Soyuz. That's a normal occurrence, a combination of hydrogen peroxide and oxygen venting into the air. The purpose of this is to safe the vehicle for landing. The search and recovery forces and the Energia recovery teams do not want any hazardous gases to remain in those tanks when the soft landing thrusters fire about 2 seconds before touchdown and before the vehicle is back on Earth. This way, the ground support team can approach the vehicle immediately to begin safing the vehicle and extracting the crew from the spacecraft. Today's landing is scheduled about 1 hour and 13 minutes before sunset at the landing site in Kazakhstan. Landing scheduled at 6:59 and 22 seconds a.m. Central Time, 7:59 and 22 seconds a.m. Eastern Time, which will be 4:59 p.m. at the landing site in Kazakhstan. The weather forecast issued by the Spaceflight Meteorology Group calls for scattered clouds at 8,000 feet, scattered clouds at 25,000 feet, winds out of 280 degrees, 18 knots, peaking to 24, a bit breezy, but the temperature is ideal for this first full day of the autumnal equinox, 73 degrees Fahrenheit scheduled to greet the crew as they're extracted from the Soyuz spacecraft. The Rosaviatsa search and recovery forces departed the staging city of Karaganda, Kazakhstan, several hours ago. Embedded in that team is half a dozen NASA support personnel. They flew on an Antonov 26 fixed-wing aircraft from Karaganda to Zhezkazgan, which is just about 91 miles to the northwest of the intended landing site for the Soyuz vehicle. The search and recovery forces and the NASA team are at the Zhezkazgan airport. They will board helicopters right around the time of the deorbit burn to begin to make their way to the landing site and ultimately move into a racetrack pattern around the landing site in those helos, awaiting the arrival of the Soyuz under its chutes. Once the Soyuz touches down, those helicopters will land. Russian Mi-8 helicopters will land in sequential fashion to begin the process of approaching the vehicle and extracting the crew. The 3 crew members, Tracy Dyson, Oleg Kononenko, and Nikolai Chub, will be removed from the Soyuz descent module and will be placed in reclining chairs, more comfortable chairs, so that they can have a few minutes to get their equilibrium back before they're brought in those chairs into a nearby inflatable medical tent to get out of their Sokol launch and entry suits and into more comfortable flight suits. They will then, about an hour and a half after touchdown, be brought to individual helicopters with their support personnel for a 2-hour helicopter ride back to the staging city of Karaganda, where Tracy Dyson will board a NASA jet for the trip back to Houston, and the 2 cosmonauts, Kononenko and Chub, will board a Gagarin cosmonaut training aircraft for a flight back to their training base and their homes in Star City, Russia, outside of Moscow.
Antares, сейчас готовим рекомендацию.
Antares, we're currently preparing a recommendation for you.
Хорошо.
Okay, copy. Sounds good.
Once again, a good view of the Soyuz MS-25 strapped in their respective seats. In the descent module, Oleg Kononenko, the Soyuz commander, under the call sign of Antares for this trip back to Earth, flanked to his left by Nikolai Chub and to his right by Tracy Dyson of NASA. They are all set to begin the journey home. The undocking command is scheduled just about 14 and a half minutes from now. It'll take about 90 seconds for the hooks holding the Soyuz to the Prishal module. That's the multi-hatched docking node, the node module, if you will, that is at the bottom of your screen, that is affixed to the Naoka multipurpose laboratory module on the Earth-facing side of the International Space Station. The station itself is currently flying 260 statute miles above the Earth over the Arabian Sea on a trajectory from southwest to northeast, about to cross the west coast of India.
Antares, выдаем команду
Antares, send the command.
L13.
Route 80 degrees, L13. RRG 8. Copy. Inaudible.
L13.
L13. L13, RRG 8. We have L13 illuminated. We send RRG 8 degrees. Copy.
As we approach the time of undocking, once again, Tracy Dyson is wrapping up 184 days in space, 182 of which were actually aboard the International Space Station. Her transit from the launch site in the Baikonur Cosmodrome to the station took 2 days, as opposed to the more typical two-orbit journey that many of the Soyuz vehicles take. She will have accrued 373 days in space on her 3 flights. When that comes to an end with the landing at 6:59 a.m. Central Time, 7:59 a.m. Eastern Time. As we mentioned before, Kononenko and Chub will have logged 374 days in space on their flight to the International Space Station. That's an all-time single-mission endurance record for any flight to the International Space Station. Kononenko is wrapping up 1,111 days in space on this, his 5th space flight. This was Nikolai Chub's first flight into space. And just to punctuate this year-long mission for Kononenko and Chub, they saw the arrival of 14 different visiting vehicles and the departure of 13 visiting vehicles during their time aboard the International Space Station.
R17, do we send it now or?
In this view, on the very far right of your screen, is the Soyuz MS-26 spacecraft that is docked to the Rosviet module on the Earth-facing side of the Russian segment of the station. That's the vehicle that 12 days ago brought Don Pettit of NASA, along with Alexei Ovchinin and Ivan Wagner of Roscosmos, to the International Space Station for the start of their 6 months aboard the orbital laboratory.
Copy. Input to approach.
Да, на НПО-1 КСП левая. Ну и подготовьте.
On input 1, KSP left.
Откол. Без 4 минуты надо будет выдать с пульта.
In 4 minutes, you need to send it from the display. About 2.
Inside 10.5 minutes until the command is issued for the hooks holding the Soyuz to the Prishal module to open. Again, that will take about 90 seconds to accomplish. Springs on both sides of the docking interface will push off against one another to create the physical separation, the actual undocking of the Soyuz from Prishal, that is scheduled at 3:36 and 30 seconds a.m. Central Time, and the official end of Expedition 71, the official start of Expedition 72. In this view, you can see the Soyuz MS-25 spacecraft. The solar arrays are attached to the lower section of the Soyuz. That's called the Instrumentation and Propulsion Module. The 3 crew members are strapped into their seats in the center section, or the descent module. That's the only component of the Soyuz that makes it back to Earth. And at the very top of the Soyuz, or in the far left corner of your screen, that bulbous section is called the orbital module. Just a few seconds after the deorbit burn is complete later this morning, that upper section will be depressurized to set the stage for the pyrotechnic separation of the 3 sections of the Soyuz as it begins its entry back into the Earth's atmosphere.
At 11:28:00, sending E2.
Да, все верно, Коль.
That is correct, Nikolai.
Меньше минуты остается.
It's less than a minute.
Экипаж МКС Москва в канале СГ-1 для Алексея. По включению записи.
Nine seconds. Eleven 28:00, send E2.
Less than 7 minutes now from the undocking command.
Accelerometer. Okay, we got it. Copy. I do not see indicator mode yet. We got indicator. And the maneuver.
Принимаем картинку. Картинку Input 2.
We see the video from input 2. Video parameters are nominal. Copy.
ССВП формат.
Display SSVP on input 1. Turn on the headlight.
2. Мультикаст и Input 2, Unicast.
Okay, I'm sending 17 command S17, copy.
Russian flight controllers at the Russian Mission Control Center outside of Moscow, relaying final instructions to Oleg Kononenko, the Soyuz commander. This is a view from the balcony camera overlooking the large International Space Station mission control room in Korolyov, outside of Moscow. They are in control of this operation today. They will be conducting continuous voice communications with the Soyuz crew until it is out of range of the International Space Station. At a range of about 200 kilometers distance is the end of guaranteed voice communications capability between the Russian flight controllers and the Soyuz. The voice will be picked up by that Antonov 26 fixed-wing aircraft once it arrives in the vicinity of the landing site to act as a airborne command and relay station to provide data and voice back to those Russian flight controllers at the Russian Mission Control Center. We also are likely to lose communications with the Soyuz during the 5-minute period in which the vehicle is in the highest heat peaking regime. It's called entry into plasma and exit out of plasma. The temperatures around the Soyuz and the ionization around the spacecraft will build to about 2,500 degrees Fahrenheit. And so voice communications, as the Soyuz is further and further away from the space station itself, will be sporadic and choppy at times. Less than 4 minutes now until the command is sent to begin the initiation of the opening of the hooks, holding the Soyuz MS-25 to the International Space Station. The International Space Station now flying about 260 miles over southwestern China. As we approach the time of undocking,
How do you copy Moscow?
again undocking scheduled at 3:36 and 30 seconds a.m. Central Time.
Antares, Moscow. Go ahead. Antares, could you please give us the time? 11:32, 33, 34. We are in VHF compass right now, so the clocks is correct. The time is matching.
We're in a handover between satellites on the tracking and data relay satellite system. We'll be regaining video from the International Space Station here shortly.
Okay. We had short LOS. In a minute, we will send the 7 command. Copy. Okay, thank you. You improved the video for us.
Back now with downlink video from the International Space Station. We're just over a minute away now from the undocking command being issued, initiating the opening of the hooks holding the Soyuz to the Prishal module.
Unintelligible. You're go to send the 7 command. The 7, the 11, the 15, the 17.
The Soyuz docking mechanism has now been powered up. Less than a minute until the undocking command is issued.
The 17 command ready. It is the open hooks command. At 11:36, no, at 11:35, this command should be sent. Eldar, I issued AGC command. So what about the brightness? It is at your discretion, guys.
Seconds away now from the issuance of the undocking command to begin the opening of the hooks.
Command at 11:35. Copy.
Агент
11:35. The 17 is sent.
The undocking command has been sent. 90 seconds away from physical separation.
Open. Is not illuminated. At 11:35:58, the mechanical contact indicator is not illuminated anymore. Copy.
Standing by for undocking, and there it is.
11:20, 36:20, separation is confirmed.
Physical separation confirmed. The Soyuz MS-25 is free of its mooring.
Please.
Expedition 71 is in the history books. Expedition 72 officially underway.
Copy. So the interface surface is clean. Copy. Thank you. And we wish you successful landing. Thank you, Alexei. All those guys who are on the station, thank you so much. And see you on the ground.
Expedition 72 Commander Sonny Williams ringing the traditional bell on board the station to herald the departure of the Soyuz MS-25. The first of the two separation burns, an 8-second burn of the Soyuz engines, coming up at 3:39 and 30 seconds a.m. Central Time. Undocking occurring over eastern Mongolia.
It's very clear, correct? Yeah, it's the other side that we cannot see with our eyes. Two minutes after separation. Copy.
Tracy Dyson, Oleg Kononenko, and Nikolai Chub on the first leg of their journey back to Earth, with a landing scheduled at 6:59 a.m. Central Time, 7:59 a.m. Eastern Time, 4:59 p.m. at the landing site in Kazakhstan, about 91 miles to the southeast of the town of Zhezkazgan.
2 minutes and a half after separation. Copy. Three minutes after separation and depot thrusters are firing. 4 seconds.
This is the first of the two separation burns.
The indicator is not illuminated. Now maneuver is confirmed. It's 3.5 degrees. Copy.
First of the two separation burns was reported to be nominal. A slight roll in the Soyuz as planned to put it in the correct orientation for the second of the two separation burns coming up in just about a minute.
We have attitude readiness flag. Copy.
The second of the two burns will be 15 seconds in duration.
It will be the second burn at 4:20, and it will be for 15 seconds. Copy. Please provide a running commentary. We do not have video. We are observing station. We can see station in the crosshairs through the periscope. 4:15 after separation. Now we are receiving the video on the ground. And depot is firing at 4.
And the second separation burn underway. And the burn is now complete and good.
The burn is complete. Copy. 15 seconds. Copy. Your go to send 18 command, and we're sending the command. Okay, so it is ZR or inhibit of computer control.
A good opening rate reported between the Soyuz and the International Space Station.
Nikolai, select A11. Copy.
About 2 hours and 23 minutes from now will be the deorbit burn.
It is sent.
That will enable the Soyuz to drop out of orbit. That will occur at the time that the Soyuz is about 41 kilometers away from the International Space Station.
Copy. In work. The 8, we are sending the command. The 11 is not illuminated. The 17 not illuminated. The 17 is not illuminated. Copy. And we are deactivating the floodlights. S18 command. It is off OFF. Copy. So you can transfer route control handle to the transport position. 160 is the tank pressure.
The Russian flight controllers that you see there at the Russian Mission Control Center in Korolyov relaying systems checks for Soyuz Commander Oleg Kononenko, flying the MS-25 as the Soyuz commander in the center seat of the descent module under the call sign of Antares.
I send the command Otkul TV, the activation. Copy. The other pages, the next pages of 53, 54 of the procedure.
Good view of the Soyuz with the structure of the International Space Station in the foreground.
Okay, so there no change in the spherical tanks, and we're sending
Kononenko and Chub departing this complex that had been their home for over a year and a record-setting stay of 374 days on board the station. Tracy Dyson departing after 184 days in space, 182 days aboard the International Outpost.
Raw control is in the neutral position right now. Copy. And 1303 is an accelerometer, should be activated via Corel command radio link. Copy. So now relax, guys, for a while. Copy. For your awareness, all these settings for the controlled descent are already uplinked. Copy.
That report indicating that all of the telemetry settings for the deorbit burn that's coming up at 6:05 and 46 seconds a.m. Central Time are on board the Soyuz on its in its computers.
for you to.
So the crew at this point can settle back and have a short period of time to relax. A little over an hour from now, the crew will provide a report on their readiness for descent well in advance of the deorbit burn.
Unintelligible.
And again, at the time of the deorbit burn, the search and recovery forces called Rosaviatsa, along with a team of NASA personnel, they will be boarding helicopters to take off for the landing site and will arrive at the landing site around the same time that the Soyuz will be visible under its main chute, waiting for the Soyuz to touch down and then descend themselves in those helicopters one by one to approach the vehicle and begin the process of extracting the crew from the descent module. Just to recap, the undocking occurred on time at 3:36 and 30 seconds a.m. Central Time, 4:36 and 30 seconds a.m. Eastern Time, while the International Space Station and the Soyuz MS-25 flew 260 miles over eastern Mongolia. This is Mission Control Houston. As the International Space Station and the Soyuz MS-25 fly over the northwestern Pacific Ocean, everything in good shape as the Soyuz flies free now. Expedition 72 formally underway aboard the International Complex, with 9 crew members remaining on board as Tracy Dyson of NASA and Roscosmos cosmonauts Oleg Kononenko and Nikolai Chub have a short period of time to relax in the descent module of the Soyuz before they prepare for the deorbit burn that will begin the final leg of the journey back to Earth and a parachute-assisted landing on the steppe of Kazakhstan at 6:59 a.m. Central Time, 7:59 a.m. Eastern Time. With that, we'll wrap up this second of our 3 broadcasts for the morning and invite you to return with us at 5:45 a.m. Central Time, 6:45 a.m. Eastern Time for the deorbit burn and landing, the reentry of the Soyuz MS-25 and all the landing activities on the steppe of Kazakhstan as Tracy Dyson, Oleg Kononenko and Nikolai Chub prepare for their return back to Earth. We'll see you back here in a couple of hours. Until then, this is Mission Control Houston.